Friends, good morning, good afternoon to all of you. And it's a very joy for us to have all of you for this panel discussion. Vivika, my colleague from Hong Kong, and I are very happy to welcome each one of you for this second session of our webinar series on Towards a Caring Campus. We have a series of webinars on this theme, and this second session will focus on attending to the mental well-beings of the leaders. And one of the emerging issues in the pandemic is actually the mental health, mental well-being of the students, faculty, staff, and leaders. And we go through crisis situation. So in this context, it's mandatory, it's very important to take care of the mental health, because we have pressures from all over. So this work from one of the understandings, especially from Indian context, what I have learned from some of the experiences of our faculty is that teach from home is not equivalent to work from home. Many multinational companies in India that they have this practice, work from home. But to teach from home, I feel it's very different, and they have so many challenges. And the companies, they provide all the facilities, including the internet and other facilities at home for them to work. And also that ambience is not that important because they work silently. But for a teacher, for a faculty to teach from home, it requires support from different sides, especially from the family. So that adds pressure. So we all know that we have this issue among many faculty members, and leaders go through a lot of stress during this time, admission, collection of fees, tuition, and all that add stress and pressure to the leaders also. So we thought that we'll have some of the experienced leaders among our network institutions to share their experience. They all have gone through this pandemic situation, and they are successful and effective leaders. We know that. And therefore, we have invited 4 panelists for this panel discussion to share their experience. Firstly, they will share their own experience, how they have gone through this crisis in their own life, personal and professional, and how did they handle. And secondly, they would also share with all of us what their universities are doing. What are the support systems they have created for faculty, staff, and leaders to handle this situation, or to improve the mental health, or to see that they enjoy their mental well-being. So this is the focus of our panel, and we have 4 panelists. Let me introduce 4 of them first. First, I would like to introduce Father Roberto Cia, a Jesuit from Philippines. He is the president of Ateneo de Manila University. He received his PhD from University College London, specializing in environmental economics. He likewise holds a master in public policy from the Harvard University Kennedy School of Government, a master of arts in theology from Ateneo de Manila University, a master of arts in economics from New School for Social Research, New York, and a Bachelor of Arts in Economics honors program from Ateneo de Manila University. He was also former president of Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan. So he is an experienced leader. I'm sure that we'll all be benefited through his experience. Then we have Mrs. Ruth Sreninta Tarigan from Indonesia. She's a full-time lecturer at the International Business Management Program at Petra Christian University, Indonesia. She holds a bachelor degree in computer science from Sepuluh November Institute of Technology, Indonesia, and an MBA from Alliance Manchester Business School, United Kingdom. She has experience in banking and startup before becoming a full-time academic. Her research focuses on e-commerce and information system. Welcome you, Mrs. Ruth, for this panel, and I'm sure that you will enlighten all of us today. Third, we have Dr. Tony Sam George. Many of us might know him because he has already led some sessions in United Board webinars. He is currently the Dean of Social Sciences and the Head of Psychology at Christ deemed to be University, Bangalore, India. He formally founded and directed the Center for Academic and Professional Support at the university. He completed his doctoral training at National Institute of Mental Health, popularly known as NIMHANS in India. He is visiting fellow to the Autonomous Medical University of Mexico at St. Louis Potosi and the University of Western Cape, South Africa. He was also an alumnus of United Board Fellows Program. He is a practicing psychotherapist and has a clinical interest in group, family, and couples therapy. And he would give some practical tips for all of us to handle this situation, I'm sure. And finally, we have Reverend Dr. Myun Sung, who is a systematic theology professor and serves as a chaplain at the United Graduate School of Theology, Yonsei University in Seoul, Korea. She is an ordained minister in the Presbyterian Church in the Republic of Korea. She holds a doctorate in theology from Basel University in Switzerland. Prior to her current position, Myun served as a vice president for the Ecumenical Association of Third World Theologians and as a board member of the Alumni Association of the University of Basel, Switzerland, and worked as the head of the Women and Gender Desk at Mission 21 Protestant Mission in Switzerland. Very happy to have you with us, Myun. At present, she is not in Korea, she is in Netherlands, so it's very early morning for her. Thank you so much for joining us in the early morning of your time. So with these few words of introduction, let me begin this panel. I invite first Father Roberto Yap to speak. Over to you, Father.
Thank you very much, Spurgeon, for that kind introduction. Good morning, good afternoon, or maybe some already still in the evening. To you all, I'm very pleased to be invited to be part of this panel to talk about attending to the mental well-being of leaders in this series for caring for our campuses. I've been asked to discuss two questions. The first one is really personal. How do I assess my mental health challenges and how do I try to cope? And second, what are the challenges that we have had for our faculty and our staff, and how have we tried to help them? What initiatives have we done here in Ateneo de Manila to try to help them cope with this pandemic, with this terrible pandemic? So let me begin to just put it into context. The Philippines, actually, we've had a very long lockdown. It's about 20 months already. It began in March 2020. It's still going on. We still really do not have face-to-face classes. We have not come back. So it's been over almost 20 months now that we have not had classes on campus, and no face-to-face classes. It's all online. We are delivering the learning and the teaching online. And then also even work from home. We are all working from home. Nobody comes to the campus and nobody comes to work except for a very, very few staff. I'm very lucky that as a Jesuit, I live on campus. We have a house on campus. So in some sense, I am in the campus, but it's a very, very empty campus. This used to be a campus where we would have about 17,000 students every day come here. And now hardly anyone comes here. In many ways, it's been good for the environment because there are very few people. We've seen egrets come here and all sorts of birds we've never seen before populate the grounds that we have. But anyway, so that's really the context. And of course, the usual challenges of this. First of all, it's a very, very new situation. It really is strange. It continues to feel strange after 20 months to be operating on this online mode, both for the students, for the teaching, for the learning, and even for the administrative work that we have to do. All our meetings are online, and it's really true. Zoom is nice. It connects us very easily, but it can also be oppressive at some point because it's so easy now to call meetings at any time of the day, and the meeting sometimes can go on and on. So certainly that it's a very new mode of operating that we have had to adjust. COVID, the pandemic has really changed many things in our lives. Second, of course, is the isolation. You really are alone, and you don't You don't really interact with the people. Even with the Zoom meetings, for example, it's very hard to sense the body language, the different facial ways they express agreement or disagreement, the interaction, even drawing energy from the meetings is quite difficult. So that there's that sense of isolation that's there. And of course, always taking care of our health, and that we make sure that we don't get infected. And then sometimes we do. In the house that I lived in with the Jesuit priests, we had we had several who tested positive, had to be isolated, and we had to take care of them. So that pressure also is there. Personally, well, how have I tried to cope? I've been thinking about that, especially for my own mental health. And I'd like to offer three things from my own, how I try to cope. First is what I call rhythm of life. Rhythm of life. This is something which we learned as seminarians when we were training, that it's very good always to have a rhythm of life. And that really means that you have really a regular schedule of when you go and work. And it's a rhythm that we have. I'm lucky I live on campus, so I can work actually in my office. And even though I don't see people, but I dress up for the office. I come here. I try to be as normal as possible and work within the office. I know I set time also for recreation. I'm sure I make time for that. Of course, there is a time for prayer that I have also to do, and also for community liturgy, the Eucharist that we celebrate. We make sure that that's part of the rhythm of life. And also even physical exercise is very important. It can be because of the unusualness of the situation. It's very important to establish this regular schedule, this regular set of activities that you really try to follow to have a sense of normalcy and a good rhythm of your own life with all these important things that are there. So that's one. The second one is really, I found it's good to keep in touch with a support network, to be open to the other's expression of care. Again, I am blessed, I am graced that I have a Jesuit community, the community that I live in. We're about 25 people in the house, some related to working in the university, some not, but we live in community. We take our meals together, we celebrate the Eucharist together, and then we also have meetings and faith sharing together regularly, and that really helps in terms of having a close support network where you can share your concerns, you can share the challenges that you have, especially during this pandemic, the caring words and the acts of support that we can give each other. So that's really important, to have a close support network, especially during this very turbulent times, this very terrible time of the pandemic, especially for us in the Philippines, where we are still on lockdown, basically. My third point would be really prayer. Prayer is very crucial to maintaining one's mental health during this time. And the contents of my prayer is about, well, one certainly is gratitude is very important. It's very important to see the blessings that our Lord, our God, continues to give us, and to be aware of them, and to thank the Lord for them, to thank for the people that He sends into our lives, to thank for the many good things that are happening. So gratitude is very important. The time to reflect also is very important, to always see the big picture, to not to be overwhelmed by the problems, by the concerns, to sense the big picture in prayer and reflection. And the third actually is to deepen one's sense of trust, to trust in the Lord, to trust in our God, that our God may not intervene, but our God does not abandon. Our God really accompanies us and is with us, is present with us as we go through these very unusual times. A theme in my prayer has been that our God is really a God of surprises, that He leads us, and our task is to entrust ourselves, to have faith and entrust ourselves in Him. So if I am asked what are the the things that I do to try to maintain mental health, I'd refer to those three. Have a rhythm of life. Second, have a close support network. And third, really engage in prayer and reflection. Quickly, just to the second question of what is our institution, what have we done? Certainly our faculty, our staff, our administrators are certainly very affected by this pandemic. They share the same concerns about isolation. You're at home, you're working, and you don't see your colleagues, etc. This new online mode, of course, needs really adjusting. We've had to make a dramatic shift right away to go online, and then had to retrain ourselves. Also, there's concern about family members getting sick, getting infected, and also taking care of their own health. So as a leader in the university, what I have made sure was to follow the principle that we give priority to taking care of our people. We have to take care of our people in many ways. Concerning their health, we made sure that health services and health support is still available. So we have doctors and nurses that they can consult online, etc. We make sure the health insurance programs are working. So for physical health, we've tried to also facilitate that they're able to get vaccinations. So we have our own university vaccination program, which is linked also, and we work with the government also with that. So we try to do that. And then we have also for mental health, we have also made available counselors, counselors who they can talk to online, they can talk to Facebook, through Viber, to the different social media ways, or even just communicate through a phone call. They're available if they want to talk and they want to help them process what they're going through. So counselors are available. We've also learned that you have to be very sensitive because the pace is very different from before. So we've been experimenting. We went quarterly or we went semestral, but we realized also that breaks are very important. You cannot be staring at your computer for days and days or weeks and weeks. We've realized that you have to give breaks in between for the students and even for the teachers also with this online mode of learning. And then the last two I would say is that we've certainly given a lot of support in terms of online workshops and online seminars with our health and wellness program. So we've conducted seminars about how to beat the pandemic fatigue or burnout, how to develop empathy, psychosocial support, how to learn how to be mindful and to care for oneself, how to organize yourself during this time, tips for working at home, etc. So these very practical webinars and seminars that are constantly being offered for people who wish to join. Finally, also, I think this has come quite spontaneously. The different offices, the different departments in the university have learned also to do socials through online. They meet online, not really to work or to discuss or to have a meeting, but really just to share stories. They even share food together delivered by delivery services, and share a drink together. They're in their homes, but they somehow gather and they have these karaoke sessions in online, etc., and be able to just relax and unwind together. And we're very supportive of that. So the final point I'd really like to make is that it's not only physical health, because COVID certainly very, very terrible. We have to take care, but it's really also we also have to pay attention to the mental health of our students, our faculty and staff during this very turbulent, uncertain time. And I think that's really part of that whole person education philosophy that the United Board has. So thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Father. Thank you for enlightening us with your experiences. And especially I liked that faith and trust in the surprises of life. That's very, very important. So let me invite now the second panelist, Mrs. Ruth from Indonesia. Over to you, Ruth.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. And it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So I was also given the same two questions, and I will start with what were the challenges that I had during the COVID, during the pandemic situation, especially the early time, and how did I cope with that? And then I will then answer what does my university do in order to help or promote the mental being of faculty members and administrators, and what we as a leader can do. So it started end of February in here, and just to put into context, I am the head of international program. So it's a bachelor degree where we prepare our student for their international life. And the part of that means we send students abroad. And that's why they join us, because they know that they will do international trips, they will do student exchange on the third year, and they can do joint degree with our partners. And we have two partners in South Korea and one in Netherlands. So that's generally why they join us. And that's our unique selling point. With the pandemic, it's just literally gone. And that was really hard because first, I suddenly don't know, like, you lose something that is a very unique of your program. You get this, you take this job and you know what you want to do. You have the plan. At that time, I was already, we have exchange visit with 3 universities. Even with one South Korean university, we already drafted MOA. We were ready to send students, and then the pandemic comes. So that was really quite a devastating moment for me, especially as a leader, because not only that I have to cope with the online learning and with all the changes that has happened, but it's I suddenly lost all the plans that I have, and personally, it's not something that I like. It really hit me when my plans does not go like what I want. The second thing that happened to me exactly at the very same time, by the end of February, I found out I was pregnant, and it was not planned. So I was a previously healthy person. Now I am one of the very vulnerable person because I'm pregnant, especially during COVID. And at that time, there was so little thing that we know about COVID and how it affects babies or fetus or unexpected mothers. So I was worried all the time for me, for my baby, for my family. And you cannot visit doctors. And it was not an easy, it was not an easy pregnancy for me. The second one was certainly harder than the first one, but I'm afraid to see doctor. So that one, and on top of that, I think with the pregnancy, there is a changes of hormones. So it affects my body as well as my mood. So it's not only that the pandemic, affect me, but also my own body changes. So that was really a hard time. And at that time as well, my husband did not live with me because he had work. And then there was a travel restriction. So we were not in the same home. And so it was me and my kid alone. And then at that time as well, my mom, my dad, and my brother all got COVID. They were the first 20 patients in the city. And my parents were not in a good shape. So it was a very stressful situation because, I think there were 3 of them were hospitalized, and my mom and my dad was ever rushed to the hospital, and I was away from them. And even if I were with them, I couldn't do anything. So what did I do? First, I like to separate that there are things that we can control and there are things that we cannot control. COVID, we cannot control. My parents' situation, I cannot control. So on that front, quiet times and like quiet times and prayer really help. Like every morning, I just pray, or every time I just pray that I wish to see my family for the new year. That's what it was in February, but still, I hope to see them, by the end of the year. I wish that I can spend 2020 with them, and you can control that. So you can only pray about it and trust that God has planned for me, for my family, and for everyone else. So I just put I just get like a peace on that, knowing that God will be there. God will help us all. So that's one part. And then what about the things that we can control? I said I was pregnant, and I'm not a believer that woman. I think women, they have potential, but when it comes from, I don't also believe in that hormones change our mood, but pregnancy, that's something else. It's really something else. So at that time, I found Dr. Huberman's lab, and Dr. Huberman's is a neurobiologist in Stanford. And because I couldn't control my mood, I couldn't control my situation, I tried to control what I do. So one of the things that I control is what I eat. I avoid sugars so that my mood will stay calm. And then I take a walk. Apparently in neuroscience, if you take a walk, there's this optic visual flow that will reduce anxiety. It helps. And then get the sunlight in the morning. So those are the things that I do, that because that's I can control. And then the second thing, when things gets hard, seek help early on. Don't hesitate to seek help. There are times when I actually called psychologists because I just could not. Especially us as leaders, our program need us, our faculty member need us, my family need me. So I need to take care of myself. And when I feel like overwhelmed, I seek help. That's very important. And then the last one is spending more time with family, which things that we may not think it's important, but during these times, especially at that time, like the thought that I could lose my father, my mom, and my brother make me want to spend more time with them, even just like a video call or saying, okay, what are you cooking today? And things like that, and spend time with my kids, because we don't know how long we will be around. So, and then the support and knowing we all are there for each other helped me through that situation. It is when I write this, I feel like, okay, it is easy to say that now, but during those few months, it was really hard. I was just trying to live day by day, like mentally, because my kids need me, my program needs me. But that's what I did, and thank God that every one of us, my family and me, so my parents were. We all are alive and well today. So thank God, really thank God for that. And then as for the institution, and how can institution, or how does my institution help to promote the mental well-being of faculty members and leaders? The first is they acknowledge that there is mental health issue. I know that because they send regular emails and workshops and self-assessment. This is the part where I like. It's a short Google form self-assessment, and I think this is important because a person may not know that they have mental health issue. Life can be so busy, and you forgot that you have issue. So having that, you see that in your inbox, keep coming, and you say, okay, I think something is going on. I need to take a look at that. And then you start assess yourself using the Google form. And sometimes the assessment can be so easy. For example, they gave us a picture. It was a live session I joined. They gave us a picture and they asked us to reflect, what picture do you see? And apparently by our response, we can tell whether we have a mental issue or not. At the picture, I saw that picture in a very negative way, in a very, very negative way. And when I hear what people think about what they see in the picture, which was more positive, I was like, okay, I have a problem. And then, you can start seek help. So that's how our institution can help, by making us realize if there is a mental health issue, you may have one too. The second one, which I think is very clever, is they give trainings to faculty members and admins. The trainings is not compulsory, but the training is more like the trainings will actually how to help students to be more resilient, especially during pandemic. But it gives us more like a first aid to deal with mental health. And this first aid, you can use it for yourself, for your colleagues, and for your student. I think in my counseling unit, we have less than 10, or maybe we have like 5 or 6 people. They will not be able to detect everyone in the university. But us, we work very close with our colleagues. We work very close with our students. And by having this first aid kit, we can give them first aid. Okay, maybe ask them to talk, maybe give them the same picture that I gave. And then there are some other skills that were given in that session. So the university equipped all of us, to be aware of our mental health and also be able to give first aid to those who need help. That's one thing. And then last one, as a leader, I think we really need to be flexible because this is desperate times. Not all of us lucky that we all are here complete with our family are all complete and alive. But some people went through a very difficult time. As a leader, we have power to be flexible. We have that power. For me, I am very grateful for my leader at that time who allowed me to relocate. Relocate was not something that is usual in here because you need to come to the office or at least you cannot go out from your city. But but my leader was flexible, and because of that, I was able to do my job well. As a leader, we have the top view of what we do. We have the bird view, we have the plan. It's all in our head, so we know which work can be postponed, which work needs to still go, and we can reorganize that work. Which one is not urgent? Which one can postpone? We can do that, and then we know the people who work with us. So not only reorganize the work, but also reorganize the responsibility. So there are some people who are not adept with digital technology. They didn't know how to use Zoom. It's hard to learn Zoom. And perhaps, you have to switch responsibility with that. So reorganize work, reorganize responsibility, and yeah, perhaps like more initiating things, how we can gather together, not a meeting, but over lunch or a fellowship. We had one fellowship that was initiated after the start of the pandemic, and that really helped some of us to share what they may not be able to share in their family. So because it's us here, or to share what challenges they have in their class, and to find out that someone has the same challenge, and to share tips and tricks that really makes us not feel not in isolation. So as a leader, we do have a power to help people who work with us so that they can survive. They have a good mental health, and they can perform well in their job as well. So I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ruth, for your very moving personal testimony. And I'm reminded of the prayer of Francis of Assisi: give us the serenity to accept the things which we cannot change or control, and the courage to do what we can do. So excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your personal testimony. Let me now invite Dr. Tony St. George from India.
Thank you. Thank you, Spurgeon. Thank you. Thank you, Spurgeon. Thank you, colleagues, for this invitation. As Ruth was speaking, I was parallel processing and reflecting on experiences that I've had in the last 1.5, 2 years. And let me start with the personal experiences. First, I think for me, the biggest learning in the last 2 years was what the experience of trauma and multiple losses really mean when one goes through it. As you heard in the introduction, I am a psychotherapist. I work with clients a lot who go through these experiences, but when you are faced with it yourself, and it's right in your home, in your own space, that's a different story. I think the other biggest learning for me, again, resonating with the previous speaker, was mental flexibility. The fact that we cannot afford to look at the world the way we used to look at it in the past. Having said that, I think there are three particular learnings that I have picked up in the last 1 or 2 years, especially in the context of the pandemic and my personal life as well as my professional life. The first is the pandemic has really forced me to think about my beliefs about health, about what's important in life, about wellness and how I treat others. For those of you who know me more closely, you know that I have a tendency to overcome it. I have a tendency to work towards exhaustion, so on and so forth. But I think what the pandemic has taught me is to ask myself how to prioritize what's really important, who really matters, and what really matters in life. And I begin to realize that there are things that we do which are really not important, things that we have not been doing, and those are actually important. I've learned what it means to embrace vulnerability, to say that I'm not okay and I cannot do this. I've learned how to say no for demands. I've learned that it's okay, to change the way you do things. And so there's a lot of examination of my own personal beliefs about leadership, about being a person, about mental health that I have experienced over the last 1 or 2 years. The second is, of course, behaviors. What kind of behaviors I've been able to change, especially when I went through multiple losses in the initial part of the pandemic and also COVID at home. I got back to doing things that I used to do much earlier before I got too busy with work. I got back to a lot of cooking, a lot of gardening, as some of you said, prayer. I'm a very good singer if I'm alone and no one's listening to me, so I got back to doing that. I just missed my guitar, but otherwise, I began to do things that are personally helpful for me. Coping with mental health challenges, coping with stress is through creative means. And so I began to get back to things, perhaps things that I used to do a while ago before I became a busy administrator. And I found that to be extremely helpful. I also saw myself advocating. And this is something that I began to do very specifically in the last few years. I was not a great advocate of the needs of others, especially within the institutional frameworks. And I think my empathy for what is happening both in my life and the lives of others have deepened considerably in the last 2 years. Lives in families for parents who are a major part of our teaching fraternity, parents with younger kids, single parents, parents from broken homes, divorced families, and so on. They have significant challenges, and at the workplace they often put on a front, emotional labor. So do not show your emotions, do not be vulnerable. So you do not know the person behind that face. And I think the last 2 years, I've made it a point to figure out the people behind those faces and advocate for their needs. Many institutions do not have a responsive human resource department. And if leaders like us do not speak up and advocate for the needs of faculty members, then it becomes challenging. Normally in higher education, the first group of stakeholders that we care for are students. And we often neglect teachers, administrative staff, leaders, and so on. And I realized how important it is to actually advocate for the needs of teachers and take risks to advocate for mental health needs. I've also found it really helpful to educate myself. Because of the grief experiences that I had, I revisited what it means to understand grief. We live in a grief illiterate society, and I joined a professional development program and completed a course on grief education, which immensely helped me personally, and which I'm sure will help others when I start using some of those learnings. So I think educating ourselves and keeping ourselves abreast of how we can deal with mental health challenges, especially as leaders, is personally very helpful. I'm following a couple of authors now and reading their work, Adam Grant and Brené Brown, and of course, David Kessler. They have been extremely helpful in my journey through grief, trauma, and understanding what is what is probably happening to all of us today. I'll switch gears now and speak about the institution. Something that I'm really proud of is the fact that the Vice Chancellor established wellness, emotional wellness, and mindfulness as an important strategy and focus area for the university this year and the years to come. And we've seen that being followed up very positively by requests for faculty development programs on emotional wellness. I know at least 4 or 5 departments and centers in the university that have already completed these training programs for their faculty, very personal sessions that they've gone through, and that's been very helpful. I think it makes sense when we institutionalize mental health, wellness, well-being as important priorities, rather than speaking about it without an institutional policy. We've right at the heart of the second wave of the pandemic, there was a lot of grief, and we still have grief on our campuses. I think the losses will count for a long time. We found it very helpful to conduct grief sessions. We educated faculty and teachers about grief and give them an opportunity in safe spaces to speak about what is going through in their lives. And that was helpful for a lot of staff on campus. We also started some caring groups, support groups, prayer groups for teachers who are interested to come and speak about what is going on in their lives. Again, extremely helpful interventions. The counseling and health services of our university from the beginning of the pandemic till today have been consistently working with students and faculty through messaging, through online sessions, offline sessions, training in psychological first aid, gatekeeping services, anxiety prevention, and so on. And they're doing that consistently over the last 2 years, especially during the pandemic. So that's been a great help to faculty and students. Just in the year 2019, just before the pandemic, we had 100 faculty members reporting to the Center for Organizational Professional Development, which was like an EAP service, asking for mental health services. I remember 30 years back, we had one counselor coming on campus, and most of the time students would want to miss their classes because it was a predominantly men's college, and she was one of the few ladies who used to come to the campus. So there was a lot of students who wanted to go and have a counseling session. But today it's different. All our 20 odd counselors have a full day booked, meeting the needs, real need, emotional and mental health needs of students and faculty members. So I think that kind of reflects the need that there is today in addressing some of these challenges. I also want to speak about how we can establish evidence-based interventions at this time. For all of us, all of you who are on this call today, administrators and others and leaders, the impact of the pandemic is going to last for several years. And it would be really good to look at what public health models we can adopt in our universities to address the needs of both students and faculty members as well as leaders. 2 examples that we've been doing. One is a problem management plus program of the World Health Organization. It's a public health model. Anybody with any kind of training can be trained to address the needs of their peers by using this model. And I would recommend this because it's very easy to adapt and implement. You don't need a lot of trained psychologists on campus to do it. You can work with anybody. The other is a more specialized model to help, students who have anxiety and depression and suicidal ideation world over. In Asian countries and other countries, we've seen that students have a significant amount of anxiety and depression, and they're bringing that to the campus. So it makes sense to look at evidence-based models to address, and there are models that can be used effectively both online and offline. So I would encourage others also to do that. The benefits of those sessions have been extremely helpful for us, for our students, and they're in a much better place because the challenges that they're going through are consistent and increasing over the years. I think the data we have from our university shows that a significant amount of students have distress that we can address through this, and a significant amount of teachers too have distress that we can address. For leaders, we have we encourage leaders to talk about health and wellness needs through leadership conversations once a month. They have been helpful to address some of these needs. Right at the beginning of the pandemic, we spoke about managing change and mental flexibility, and that really prepared us as leaders. And I would like to see all of us as leaders being more open to mental health needs among ourselves. I want to conclude by resonating a couple of points that were shared earlier. One is, as leaders, I think we need to be open to examine our own beliefs. I remember some of our departments would hold meetings right till 10 o'clock at night with teachers because they felt that somehow they have to do everything that they used to do before. And that's a great learning for us. We don't have to do that. We do not have to micromanage. We do not have to, do things the way we used to do before. We need to be flexible, change, and be more empathetic to the needs of others. And that requires a lot of introspection into our own beliefs as leaders about what matters and who matters and so on. I think it's also important for us as leaders to examine what empathy really means. Because for some of us, when we live a certain kind of life, we are insensitive to the needs of others, and we always gauge others based on our own parameters. And to let go of that can be really challenging and difficult for us. And I think that's important learning for all of us as educators to actually do. And then I just want to come back, just looking at my notes here, come back to the point about vulnerability. It's okay to be vulnerable, and therefore it's okay to seek help. And I hope as leaders we have a friend or a colleague or a person or a family member who we can reach out to, fall back to, and just be ourselves with. That can be a biggest kind of support that we can get. So I'm going to conclude with these thoughts. I have a list of all the programs done for the students and so on, but I think I will leave that for now and maybe come back to it later when we have our discussion time. Thank you for listening. Back to you, Spurgeon.
Thank you, Tony, for giving the practical tips on how to bring changes in the beliefs about our own health and how to prioritize. Very useful models you have provided. Thank you so much. Let me invite Reverend Dr. Myung. Over to you, Myung.
Okay, thank you very much for this invitation. And while I'm listening to other colleagues, and they already said what I was supposed to say. And it is a great opportunity to meet all of you in the different part of Asia. And what you have described generally is the same to me. And now I would like to start with some brief introduction about my university. Can you see my slide properly?
Okay. Yes, Miriam. Go ahead.
Yes. I just want to introduce briefly. U.S.A. University was founded 1885 by the U.S. American missionaries, and Allen, Forrest Grant Underwood, Julius Horton Underwood, and Oliver Edison from Canada. And particularly this woman, she passed away just 100 years ago, and I tried to make an event to commemorate of the Julius Horton Underwood, because we always start with the male missionaries and then give little attention to the female missionaries, women missionaries. So I try to think about her legacy as well. And we started with the Western hospitals, and this is the monument of it. And now on the right part, we see the current situation of this hospital, how it grows. And we have also College of Medicine and all other departments. And the missionary started, Forrest Grant Underwood started his work with the orphanage, and out of this orphanage, our university. And for us, medical education and educational service is combined, and that was merged 1957 as a U.S.A. University, and now you see the main campus pictures, and we have several different university buildings. Beside the Seoul, the capital, we have another campuses in Songdo area and Wonju area in other province of Gyeonggi, the university. Now go to your own questions. And as my other colleagues already described, I try to manage my time more properly, to spend time with my mom especially, because she lived around 1 hour distance from my place, that I try to go more frequently. And generally, I had last year more quiet time for me, listen to music or singing more, and what I like, because we were surrounded by the culture of dance and all these kind of sad news, and then listen frequently all these data, how many are affected and that, all those things. So I try to make and promote the culture of life, and then take care of their plants and flower arrangement, and cleaning office and my rooms, and so on and so forth. So for instance, I offered to take care of plants in the faculty lounge and staff lounge, and then to put more green colors in that place. And also spent more time to take a walk. And since the gym center is also closed, I have more time to take a walk in natures. And in the emergency situation in the airplane, for instance, you have to cover yourself first by the oxygen mask, and then you could help the other, right? So I try to keep my health first properly, and then I was more ready to listen to others. And others means including students, staffs, and also faculty. And during this kind of time, and there is also many kind of problems in the institution or in the department, and more struggle or some conflict among faculties and this and that. And in order to comfort them, you have to advocate certain things, to listen to the people who are very much suffering under certain situations. So I think I generally spend more time for the listening, or make small groups, and because we are not allowed to eat together, and there is something the number restriction as well. So that was what I was doing, and what our institution have its administrators and faculty address their mental wellness. Actually, our staff were more busier than before, because we have to switch all these mechanical things and technical things to offer our classes through Zooms, and make a recording and this and that. And there was, in fact, not much room left. We were more engaged with the real world. And even I offered, I was in charge of a private class for staffs. And it was rather hard. Even I offered June and the real combined mental biblical class. But I tried to deliver some lunch to that, and then to listen to them through on the phone or the phone. But that was one thing, and the other things, we prepared a prayer room more in the buildings. Even in the restriction, we cannot open properly individual needs. So they could post their work and then to have a time for serenity. And that was what we are preparing at the moment. And I prepared also some body program for international students because they are more in the isolation situation. And this body program through the Zoom and the Katalog and all other methods works very well, and it was rather helpful. And the initiatives of institutions, I think even in the small meetings, listening each other. And I would like to wrap it up my presentations to show our logos. And this is a U.S.A. logos, and it shows a threefold relationship with God and with a human being in the bottom. And this shows the relationship with the earth and with nature. I think we live in the time for repentance in front of God, and to restore this threefold relationship, this broken relationship. This is our task for this time. And we especially in the U.S.A. University offers mandatory chapter for students. And for graduation, you have to participate in the chapter is requirement. And since it is a B class, around 1,000 people, students participate, so we cannot do anymore in the auditorium, but we switched the online chapter class. And this is the one slide how we could arrange our chapel and the video clips. But it was well accepted by the students because they don't need to come early in the morning to participate in the chapel. And we have also chapel for the staffs and faculty. And we switched also this chapel form to the online form. So, and then to show different historical spots of the campus, and to remind and recall the legacy of missionaries, and then interpret in the new way. So that's what we are doing for the mental nourishment, and to take a pause and rest a little bit, and then to think about the different things. And that's what our institution is offering at the moment. I leave here, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mayun. Thank you so much for sharing your universities and other practices you have in. Now we have time for questions. Time is limited now. We'll take a few questions maybe. And panelists, you can see the questions in the question and answer. If you want to answer any one of them, maybe you can choose. But I would like to ask Father to address one important question which has come in the question and answer, that what are the initiatives taken in building effective spiritual support system? Because this has come from your point on spirituality, prayer, and to strengthen your own self. Father, can you take up that question first, and others can look into the questions? And you have to unmute, Father.
Yes, sorry. Certainly. As I mentioned, in the Philippines, in Manila, we are still online, and for the spiritual activities, I think we really have been able to go also online in terms of recollections, retreats, and prayer meetings, prayer sessions, faith sharing sessions. So in fact, for some of our schools, some of our colleges, that's become a very regular thing. Some of them do it like monthly, where they gather, and they gather through Zoom, through online, even we are celebrating now. Most of the masses are celebrated. Eucharist is celebrated online. We just have what the Catholics pray a act of spiritual communion. We actually can't receive the holy bread, but we have that. But we are able to maintain, and I'm very glad about this, because we continue to have these recollections, these prayer faith sharing sessions with each other, and still try to give really spiritual support to each other. So, and it's all done online. Thank you.
Thank you, Father. Tony, would you like to take up some of the questions? For example, what are the common mental issues you find among the leaders? Or how is mental health related to physical health?
Yeah, sure, Spurgeon. I think the question on what are the common mental health challenges of leaders, world over, leaders, students, homemakers, mothers, parents, so on and so forth. There are three or four indicators of mental distress that is common. Just using a mental health framework here. One is, of course, the impact it has on our mood. And very often a strong indicator of that is what in mental health we speak of as depression, where you feel really low for many days. You don't have the same kind of passion that you had before. Your sleep is impacted. You don't have the same kind of energy that you had before, and so on. And this could be for a variety of reasons. So my first point here is, if any of us go through some of these experiences, it's good to go for a mental health checkup, speak to somebody, look at some resources, and pull ourselves out of it. Because if we do not do that, we know that low moods always filter the way we view the world and we view ourselves, and that might even take us to more challenges. The second indicator that is recognized world over is called anxiety, which is the sense of, tension and, preoccupation with how the world is going to be, what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to others. We feel that physiologically and so on. We all go through this from time to time, but if that's a predominant part of how we are functioning on a day-to-day basis, and that can be really challenging for leaders. I know of leaders who have been silently going through this for many years and not seeking help at all, and that really impacts, leading to your other question, impacts our physical health as well. There is, of course, now a lot of trauma-related challenges that leaders are going through, because leaders have gone through challenges. There was another question in the chat Q&A about how younger teachers may find it difficult to speak to older professors because of the power equations, and it's really psychologically unsafe to do that, because you don't know what's going to hit you and how they're going to hit you back, right? And we had professors in our university who go through ongoing trauma every day in the departments, because they do not know what is going to come at them from seniors and those who do not give them psychologically safe spaces. So there's a lot of trauma we are seeing. We're seeing school leaders who can't sleep well, who have flashbacks about losses that they have had, and about thoughts about losing their jobs, or the financial crisis they had during the pandemic. So trauma and symptoms of trauma is perhaps the third indicator that I think we should look for. And these are the top three. A lot of students, teachers, leaders have been going through suicidal thoughts and ideations, which I think is something we must educate our leaders about, to seek help immediately. And there's a lot of that which is not diagnosed. And you and I have heard of situations among our network universities where we lost people for that. So that's a quick answer to that question. And to the second question, health, there was a question of diabetes and health. Physical health and mental health are definitely connected. The mind, body, and the spirit, the trinity of the mind, body, and spirit. So it's important for us to look at that. And you and I know that today we are getting medical reports of young people losing their lives to cardiac arrests and so on. So that demographic change in health morbidity tells us that there is something happening to us today which was not happening before. And I think there's a strong connection between mental health, not taking care of ourselves, poor self-care, and physical health. We're going to see lots more deaths being brought forward today around the world, and lots more of diagnoses that we've not seen before because of this relationship. So it's a quick answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. And maybe you can keep looking into the question answer session, which you can address both father and you. Ruth, I think that you can address this question: how to sustain passion despite the mental breakdown.
Oh yeah, so I think I've answered that before. So one of the reasons why we are not passionate about what we usually passionate about, I think it's because we can be not well, or we can be bored. So I suggest to maybe take a break, stop what you think you're passionate about and do something else. I think even Steve Jobs did that. You can always come back. And then the second, I am a fan of pay attention on what we eat, on what we and what we do, like going out for exercise, keep your body well, make sure that you have a good intake for food, and also good hydration. So things like, because your mental and physical health is very important. Because without that, you cannot perform well in the thing that that you are passionate about. So I think that's from me.
Thank you, Ruth. Reverend Myun, do you want to answer any of the questions? Can you see in the question to answer the questions posted?
Yes, there are so many, and but it is not directly related to me. But generally, what I want to highlight, I think to emphasize on interconnectedness within ourselves, I mean, in the university community, but to think about others in global north and south. To highlight this kind of dimension is also very important in this kind of situation, all right? And we were very much focused on ourselves, but nowadays, this is a good learning situations. If we are egoistic and individualistic, we cannot survive anymore in this world. And so we should really take care of each other. And then we have to encourage each other. So to find the proper word, and wording and expression is also very important. But I think to create just a system also is very important. And not only just charity work or just doing the sympathetic with others, but to have a healthy organization and institutions, and nobody feels left behind, and nobody think and handled by the injustice. I think this kind of efforts, even it is very challenging, so we need to create that kind of things. And then to take more time for prayer each others, and to think more globally and act in locally. That might be what I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Maybe we have less time, but we'll ask Tony. Tony wants to answer one question. With that, we'll find out.
Okay, thank you, Sachin. Sachin, there was a question about whether we should put mental health guidelines on the campus. So I just wanted to quickly address that based on some data. Well, we can put that on campus. We can advertise about psychological first aid and so on and so forth. But what couple of things that might really work is, one, modeling behaviors that demonstrate that we care about mental health, which means that professors, leaders, and others should start modeling those behaviors. from the point of view of students, today, world over, students are very vocal about mental health needs, but they are not that great in seeking help or doing something about it. They're very vocal, but not that great in seeking help. But what we found that works is they listen to peers, and if they are involved in decision making about mental health, then they're more active in participating in mental health and well-being programs. So it would be good to involve students as peers and peer mentors and so on, and train them so they convert their, their activism and their voice to actual action, and then they reap the benefits of mental health, mental well-being. The second point I wanted to share is that we know that teachers are a primary source of support for students today. So if our faculty development programs, we can start training teachers in one more skill to up their mentoring skills, that is basic listening skills and basic supportive skills. That might actually work in bridging the gap between the number of students who do not seek help in professional counseling and the number of students who, with some distress, can get help from an adult, responsible adult who is usually a teacher. So I would suggest in FDPs in our universities, think about training teachers in basic skills, and also in some sense how teachers can regulate their own emotions so they can model that for the students. So that's a quick answer to the question on whether we should actually put out guidelines. I think it's more of behaviors and strategies more than putting the guidelines out there. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you all the four panelists. Wrap up, when I was listening to four of you, that I was thinking of the famous term VUCA, that world in which we live. Then I thought that I'll also frame four words as a kind of response to this situation from what you spoke in your panel. First, vision. Keep your vision. Vision is important. Vision of your life. Father started with saying that maintain the rhythm of life. That you will maintain the rhythm of life only when you have a very clear vision. Don't give up your vision. Vision is very important to move forward. Number two, understanding. Understand others from their point of view. That I think Tony was emphasizing on empathy. And also it's important, Ruth and others shared that how important it is to understand our own family, that family support is important, people with whom we work. So understanding is very important. Understanding in the sense that right perspective, not from our point of view, understand others from others' point of view, from their point of view, will help us to help them or handle situation. Number three, very important point, which has come in several of your discussion, connection. Connection, we call it spirituality, connecting yourself to the Supreme Being, connecting to your own self, connection to the people with whom we live, connection to the nature that Myung mentioned in her discussion. So these connections are very important, that faith in the surprises of our life, which I like very much when Father Roberto spoke, that we need to keep these connections so that we derive courage to face all the situations. And finally, adaptability. We need to bring changes in our own belief system. I like the way Tony had put it, that you do not have to do all that you used to do before. That's a kind of adaptability, that we have a set of mind, and that there has to be some kind of changes. And with this, I think that we can face this situation and we can provide models for others and our younger people so that they also groom in the whole person education. So with this, I take this opportunity to thank all the panelists, Father Roberto, Mrs. Ruth, Dr. Tony, and Reverend Dr. Myun for their time and for a wonderful way that they have shared their experience, their own personal experience and professional experiences. I'm sure that all of us are benefited from this.